Well, y'all, I'm back on the budget build, but before I get to showing you what I'm going to be doing on this today, I just want to make a little announcement. As of not last week, by the time y'all get this, the week before last, the channel hit 1,000 subscribers, and I just really want to say thank y'all so much for subscribing, watching my video, commenting in the comments section, being so supportive, welcoming me to the Suzuki Samurai community. I'm just blown away. It's been a really short amount of time. Actually, it's just been 6 months, and we've made tremendous headway. And for the rest of this year, I've got a lot of really cool things planned. Hope to do a lot of really cool stuff. Have a lot of stuff coming up with Zuks of Hazard. They've got something in the works. We're going to be working together on it. It's going to be pretty awesome. But without further ado, let's get on to the budget build. So a couple of videos ago, I talked about all the parts that I was going to be putting on the budget build and some of the things that I needed to do to fix the stock emission system. I showed you guys that I had a 3K carb, and while I'm going to be putting that on, I recently just found a place up here in Houston that does dynoing, and I'd really like to dyno that stock carburetor to kind of get a baseline of horsepower, and then do the 3K, and then do a my side, and then a turbo. So that 3K carb is going to wait. But I had made mention of last time I went off-road that I had an issue with my hot idle. And if y'all remember, I told you guys I had to do the HIC, or the hot idle compensator. So I went over there to Zuks of Hazard up in Splendora, Texas, and Andrew gave me another intake. Now, see if you can see it. So right here, there's a nipple. Well, inside here is the HIC. It is just like this little bimetal kind of vacuum valve. What happens is whenever it gets hot, a little piece of bimetal, which is just what we call a piece of metal that reacts to a certain temperature, it moves over and it allows vacuum to get pulled on this. So what it does is it takes some fresh air and it pulls it into the cylinder number 3 runner right next to the PCV valve. If you look on your intake manifold, you'll see the PCV valve that screws down to the number 3 runner, and there's a little bitty vacuum port right there. Most of the time it's just blocked off, but if you have a stock carburetor and the stock air cleaner, it actually just pulls fresh air to help control the idle when it's hot. So he just gave me a whole one of these pieces with the boot and everything. A couple of other things that he gave me, it's a temperature switch for the computer. Mine doesn't have the wires on it, so he gave me that. The drive shaft with the bad U-joints. This side, the one side that I was able to do, the ear was bent, so he gave me another one. And this U-joint actually doesn't feel all that bad. So it's the slip yoke. I'll probably just throw it on there. Gave me 2 boots. And those guys at Zuks of Hazard are so nice. He just had like 5 U-joints laying around, and he just gave it to me, which I think is super cool. I mean, the truck had some issues whenever I bought it, but I knew that going into it. It wasn't like I was blind to the work that it was going to need to be done, but it was just really cool, the fact that they kind of went above and beyond after the sale of the vehicle to kind of try to make it right. Like, they're just really good guys. You know, and most of these parts are used parts, which I don't really care. You know, I mean, everybody knows you get a Samurai, you try to find stuff like these small and large flanges, you know. Sometimes you got to go online, you got to buy them. You don't know if you're, you know, going through eBay, you don't know anything about the seller, you don't know, you're kind of leery about doing businesses with them. Let me tell you something, doing business with Zuks of Hazard has been a pleasure. Awesome. I just went down there earlier today just to chit chat and pick up these parts, and ended up giving me those U-joints and stuff, which was really super helpful. Thank you, Andrew and Casey. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh, also he gave me just a radiator hose, the long one that goes into the pipe from the lower portion of the radiator. The long, it actually goes like this on the motor. But he just kind of gave me this. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The radiator hose I have on there, it's not the right radiator hose. It actually gets bound up and rides right on the alternator, and I don't like that. I don't want to be making that alternator any hotter than it needs to be. Not only that, whenever I was working on it before, they had done kind of a shiesty job wiring up that alternator. It was wired up wrong, so it was just really kind of hard to work around it without any room. So that'll kind of fix that for future reference or future repairs. But that's kind of what we're going to be doing in this video. So let's go ahead and get to it. The temperature switch I'm talking about is this one right here. As you can see, it doesn't have any wires going to it, and it plugs into, not this. This is the old charging wire for the original alternator. It's this 2-prong, which I'm gonna have to clean that out. And then for the HIC, and I don't know if you can see it right there. My finger's right on it. It's got a screw inside of it. That goes to the HIC. So it's kind of a tight fit, but we'll get it changed out real quick. So as you can see in the stock one, or the one that came with mine, there are the 2 holes. One of them's for the nipple and one of them's for the screw. So this one we need to change out. This looks like one of those. I guess that's what they were using on the original one. I need a washer. So that metal crossover pipe that the lower radiator hose comes up to, and then the crossover rubber hose goes to, is all corroded up real nice and nasty. A little trick that you can use to clean it up is you could take some Scotch-Brite and you can cut a strip out of it, and then you can just kind of work it and knock off all that big stuff, and then you can take some Dawn dish soap and put it on the edge. Not only will that help slide this rubber tube on there, or this rubber hose, whenever it dries, it acts like a sealer, kind of gluing the hose on there a little bit. So it kind of helps prevent leaking, and that's kind of what I think I'm gonna have to do because it's pretty nasty. I'm gonna try to clean it up the best I can on the truck, but I may have to take it off to clean it thoroughly. brand new. Now, as far as using Dawn dish soap, you don't have to use anything special. You can just use regular Dawn dish soap, and it doesn't take very much. You just got to put a little bit on your finger and then just wipe it on to your spot where you attach the hose, and then take the extra and just wipe it inside the hose. Look at that. Something tells me I need a new overflow bottle. I think we're gonna improvise. Budget build. Good old Southern iced tea. I think that'll work. Alright, I got the coolant changed out, got the HIC in, put that computer registering temperature sensor, however you want to call it. I got all that in, I ran the motor, bled out all the air. So one of the very first things I did when I got this truck was I did a tune-up. Well, I didn't have my timing light, so I wasn't able to set the timing on this motor. So that's something that we need to do. So I figure I'll walk you through the process. Keep in mind that this process is for a stock carburetor, so as far as setting the idle, it'll be a little different per carburetor, but it's not really a big deal. It's generally just like a screw head. There's probably some videos out there for showing you how to do this, but since I'm here, I might as well just walk you through it. So, up here on the hood, there is, well, generally there is, my tin top doesn't have one, but you have all your emission stuff. And up here it says that your idle speed is 800 RPMs and the ignition timing is 10 degrees before top dead center. So there's two things that you need. You need a timing light and you need a tachometer. So if your truck doesn't have a tachometer, it's really good idea to invest in a timing light that displays the RPM, because whenever you adjust your timing, your RPM is going to fluctuate. You know, you're going to hook everything up, you're going to check your RPM, you're going to try to get 800. Now it's plus or minus 50 RPMs, so it can be 750 to 850, that's your range. Aim for 800. So once you have your idle set, you're going to loosen up the 12mm bolt on the distributor and you're going to turn it. And you're going to be flashing your timing light on the crank pulley, and you're going to be looking for that mark to land on 10 degrees. Like you have 0 with a mark, and then you have a whole bunch of little marks, then you have 10 with a mark, and then a couple of more marks. So you're going to aim for 10. You have to do this when the truck is warm. I just ran the truck to bleed out all the air out of the coolant system, so my truck is already warmed up. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing all set up. So all timing lights are the same for the most part. Whether you have one that just shoots a light or if it actually has RPM while it shoots a light. But you have a positive and a negative hookup, and then you actually have the part that hooks up to cylinder number 1 spark plug wire, so it can actually get the rhythm of the motor to flash the strobe light. So we're going to hook up our negative battery cable. We're gonna hook up our positive, and we're gonna hook up cylinder number 1 spark plug wire. I advise hooking it up here, because if you hook it up down where the cylinder is, yeah, your belt can grab your wire. As you can tell, I learned the hard way. So just learn from my mistakes and hook it up here. Don't mess with it down there. There we go. See, mine actually has a voltmeter gauge built into it, so that way you can register that you have power. So the other tools that you're going to need besides these two, these are the two most important. Well, I guess the others are important too, because without them you're not going to be able to do this. You're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver, so that way you can adjust the idle air screw, or the idle air screw. And you're going to need a 12mm wrench socket, whatever, to loosen up that bolt. So let me grab that real quick. All right, now we're going to start the truck. First crank. That's what I like. That's weird. I wonder if my bass timing. This is the same thing that it did on the trail. I thought that HIC would fix it. It was sitting there idling whenever I was bleeding out the coolant, no problem. See, on the trail, it did this exact same thing. You push the clutch in, it'll start, but it's like the moment that you re-engage the clutch and the load of all the gears inside the transmission mesh with the motor, that little bit of load is enough to make this thing die. See, right now the clutch is depressed. And now I'm gonna let off of it, and it dies. Well, we have a problem. I can't set base timing if this thing won't stay running. That's so weird. Okay, so now that time I was slowly coming up off the clutch. If I put a little bit, just like a little bit of pressure on the clutch, it stays running. So it might be something electrical now, I'm thinking. We're gonna try a little trick. We're gonna try a little trick. There, I put something on the clutch, holding it down a little bit, and now it wants to run. So weird. Alright, well look at that. That's probably why it won't stay running. The idle's like way too low. Alright, well there it is right there. There's the problem. The idle's too low. Maybe that's why it doesn't want to run. So I don't know if y'all can see that in there on that flashing strobe light. On a Phillips head screw, and that is the adjustment. Now, oh look at my timing. I don't know if you guys can see down in there, but that timing is not 10 degrees before top dead center. Don't loosen it up all crazy, just enough so that way it still grabs. idle jumped up to 900, 890, so we need to lower it back down. Now we come back over here and check our timing again. And we're still at 10 degrees top center. I wonder if now it'll want to run if I pull this off. Now look, it runs. I guess my idle was just a little bit too low and my timing was just a little bit too low for it to want to run with that load of the transmission on it. Look at that. Just fixed the problem by setting timing. Good maintenance. Good maintenance. Awesome. I like that. I like being able to fix stuff for free. Well, the problem that I thought was the HIC was probably just an idle that was, instead of being 800, was 600, and my base timing wasn't even 10 degrees above top dead center, you know, which is what it's supposed to be. But I feel like we got the budget build street worthy. For a minute there, I wasn't even going to want to take it to the dyno because it wouldn't run. Let me see if it'll start again real quick. Huh. Well, it doesn't want to start again. What a pain in the rear. You know what? The only other thing I can think of is the fuel filter. I have an OEM fuel filter. Let me change that real quick. And let's see if that fixes it. Two little clippies. This should be pretty straightforward and easy to do. Time to get this thing back on. So I can give y'all guys, so I can give y'all a view up close. Hopefully there's enough light to use this. Actually, you know what? This thing doesn't do very well in low light. This camera that I'm filming on right now does really well in low light. So let's get you on a different tripod. Woo. God bless America. Oh. We'll put our new clippies on there too. Man, these clips are hard as hell. Okay, that one. There we go. So weird. Unless that HIC that Andrew gave me was somehow bad. Oh well. It's not really a big deal. Just if you have your foot on the clutch and you start the truck and then you let it all the way off the clutch, then it'll die. So it's not the end of the world. We'll definitely see when I do the 3K swap. If it keeps doing it, then I know there's something electrical, like that neutral safety switch is somehow jacking with that, but I don't know. Well, got everything done that I wanted to get done. Truck doesn't run the way I'd like it to run. But what you gonna do? There's bigger and better things planned for it, so I'm not really too concerned with the fact that the stock carburetor is kind of like acting up, that little scenario with it. I'm really kind of just pressed for time anyways. I really can't like I can't just go like wholeheartedly dive into it and open up a can of worms. I do have to get back to Port Arthur tonight because I have to start my shift tomorrow. So I kind of have to like 8 p.m. today. But, I mean, got everything done that I had planned, you know. Got the HIC installed, got that temperature switch for the computer installed, did a coolant flush, changed out that radiator hose, timed the truck. It was a little bit out of time, so, you know, it might have a little bit more pep in its step on the trail. So, it was still good. Still got some good progress done on the budget build. I am going to have to find some time to get these drive shafts done. That's a different project for a different video. But, like always, if this was content that you enjoyed watching, smash that like button. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so that way you can stay up to date on what I've got going on in one of 2 shops. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace! Well, where the hell's my 10mm at?